Hi folks, this is Ben from carrypad.com. I've got the HTC Thunderbolt here and I want to give you a look around the device. So we'll start with the hardware real quick. On the front we've got the headset piece for voice calling, and this is a 1.3 megapixel forward-facing camera. That's higher resolution than most smartphones that are being released or have already been released on the market. Most other ones are coming out with 0.3 megapixel front-facing cameras, and since this device is on 4G, that's handy because we actually have the bandwidth to utilize that quality in a voice call, or I'm sorry, a video call. This is a 4.3-inch capacitive touchscreen display. It is 800 by 480 in its resolution, and down here at the bottom we've got your classic 4 Android buttons, and these will turn on or not based on how bright the room is. So the ambient sensor will tell the phone whether or not it thinks it's bright enough that these should turn on. So in a bright room, like we're taking this video right now, you won't see these come on, but in a dark room you will see them come on, which is nice. Some devices, they don't turn on the lights altogether, so it's hard to know what you're pressing when you're in the dark. Starting after that with the top of the device, we've got a microphone here for noise cancellation purposes, 3.5-inch headphone jack. This little slot right here, let me make sure you can see that, is the battery pry slot. So you get a thumb in there or fingernail to pull off the back cover. I'm really not a fan of the way that HTC doesn't sort of use a standard click and slide off back. With these prying slots, it just really feels like you're going to break the device every time you pull it off or at least snap the back cover. That doesn't usually happen, not in my experience anyway, but it certainly feels like it's going to. And when you do end up putting the cover back on, you never really know if it's clicked back into place properly, or it's hard to click it back into place anyway. So here is the power and lock button, and moving over to the right side, long volume rocker. This presents an issue for me because I'm left-handed, so when I'm unlocking the device or locking the device, my hand is usually in this position, and as I apply pressure to the lock button up here, I usually end up squeezing to get a good hold on the device with this finger, and I'll end up pressing these buttons, and if I do that right as I lock the screen, sometimes that'll adjust the volume on me for the ringer, taking it out of silent or putting it into silent when I don't want it in one of those two things. So I'd prefer if this was a little bit smaller, but some people might not have that issue. A right-handed person, for instance, probably wouldn't be pressing it the same way the left-handed person would, so that's just my issue for the time being. On the bottom of the device we have another microphone. This is the main one that will be used for the voice calls. On the left side, this is a micro USB port, and we've got nothing else. On the back, we've got a little more than most phones. There you've got your usual camera here. It's an 8 megapixel camera. Brief testing so far has showed not a lot of great low light performance, but that's to be expected from a smartphone, so don't let the 8 megapixel, oh that's, so many megapixels rating fool you, because it'll really affect your image quality if you can't get good low light performance. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our full review in the coming weeks. Here we've got a dual LED flash, and this is what I was talking about, a little bit extra for most phones. We've got a nice stand which HTC puts on a lot of their devices. This one's very well built. I recently played with the HTC Surround, a Windows 7 phone device, and the stand was a little bit flimsier. This one is nice and meaty, just like the whole phone. As you can hear, clicks, springs open, and clicks back into place very well, and underneath it you'll find a speaker. So, nice thing about this stand is it'll sit the phone upright like that, and it'll also sit the phone up in a portrait position, which is something that not all stands will do on phones. For instance, the Nokia N900 had a stand that would only do landscape mode, and the HTC Surround stand also only did landscape mode. So being able to sit it up like this is handy for video chatting. I mean, you can imagine you'd be in a portrait mode most of the time when you're doing video chatting to another person on another phone, and being able to just set that right on your desk and not have to touch it is pretty cool. And this mode could be nice and handy for propping it up and just browsing with a finger, not necessarily having to hold the device in your hand. So that's most of the back. I want to show you taking off the cover here. Again, I gotta be careful. It always feels like you're gonna break this. So we didn't break it once again, which is good. In here you can see the vibrator right in here. That's the little piece that'll spin anytime that the phone needs to vibrate. It's pretty big. There's a micro SD card slot in here which does not come preloaded, not on this phone, which is from Verizon, but that should accept cards up to 32 gigs. And the internal memory, I believe, is 8 gigabytes factory, so you can supplement that with your own storage here, but no external slot. Some people really like to have external slots. And let me power down this phone real quick so I can show you something that you will be seeing on phones to come, but you probably haven't seen on other phones from Verizon or other CDMA providers. Okay, let me turn this off real quick. I think it's off now. So what you'll find actually is a little different than you might be used to is, once I get the battery off, I can show you. There we go. I can actually, if you see right down here, might be able to see it says SIM. So this is not your standard SIM card slot. You're not going to be able to put a card in here from another provider like AT&T and use it, because it's just, the voice bands are different. But Verizon is going to start introducing SIM cards for 4G data. So presumably, if you have more than one 4G device and you want to swap your cards around to be able to get your 4G connection to different places, you'll be able to do that. I do like the SIM card added flexibility for customers is good, instead of having to take your phone into a store to do any sort of swapping. So yeah, different than most. The SIM tray feels a little wobbly, made out of really thin plastic, and I mean, people aren't going to be playing with this a lot, presumably, but I wouldn't trust it for a lot of use. It's just not that sturdy. Anyway, we'll put that away, get the battery back in, fire up the phone, show you around the software. Now here's the part where you try to get the back on properly, and you just never know if it really is. Oh. There's always some extra clicks there. A week from now it'll click all the way into position, but anyway, let's turn this on. Now while it's firing up, I don't believe I mentioned that this is running a 1 GHz Snapdragon CPU, and it's 758 or 768 megabytes of RAM. So that's not the highest of any phone, but it's up there. Motorola Atrix and a couple other phones being introduced recently are out there with a gigabyte of RAM. So it's going to fire up its boot animation better than most that I've seen from Verizon phones. They usually have really low frame rate, really terrible animations, but at least if I'm going to have to look at something when it boots up, this is playing, or was playing, somewhat smoothly. Now it looks like it's just thinking here and waiting to begin. Either that or it's frozen, but we'll find out. Alright, so it didn't freeze on us, it's a good thing. Let me just clean the screen for you real quick before we take a look at all the software. There we are. So this is Android 2.2, and I'm just going to play with my light for a second to see if I can get you... No, I think this will be better. Okay, so as I said, Android 2.2. This is running HTC's Sense UI. They call it custom skin over top of Android. I've heard a lot of good things about it in the past. It was very popular on Windows mobile phones for Windows Mobile 6.5, but then again, it was supplanting a very outdated interface, so I can understand why some people may have liked it. It would have been an improvement over the default Windows 6.5, Windows Mobile 6.5, but as for Android, I think I might opt to just take vanilla Android over this, but that, as far as I can see, that's not an option on this phone without doing some custom ROM hacking. So, typical multi-home screen page with a background that moves with you, and you can pinch when you're on any one of the screens, and it'll take you to this multi-page view, and then you can tap to zoom straight to any of them. Nice, but I don't think that was explained anywhere on the phone or in the phone, maybe somewhere hidden in the documentation, but I actually just stumbled across it, and I feel, like most consumers just aren't going to find that feature, even though it's handy. So I'm going to show you some of the widgets here that come along with HTC Sense. To begin with, they have, you can basically pick from several preloaded template desktops. So for instance, here's travel, play, work, social, and they throw up some pre-configured ones. This is what I've been using for now. As you can see, I removed most of the widgets because I don't know if they're really that useful to me anyway, but I'll show them to you and you can decide for yourself. So this display is obviously, or this holding the screen here is obviously a little bit different than you're used to on most phones. Brings up this whole menu that'll let you change what they call the scene, which are the templates I just mentioned, your wallpaper, the skin, which is basically the Chrome or the Windows style around the device. There's a couple different ones. So for instance, let's try classic HTC. So that's actually adjusted the wallpaper and the style of the menus here. Furthermore, on that menu, you can add widgets, you can add application shortcuts, all this stuff you should be used to from normal Android. And down here they have some sound options to let you adjust the sound sets and your ringtones and all that good stuff. Let's look at the widgets. You'll see standard Android widgets in here, but what we're going to focus on is the widgets included with HTC Sense. These widgets are almost like full applications, and in many cases they take up an entire home screen themselves. So if you are not a fan of widgets, you're going to hate these. If you are a fan of widgets, I guess you'll really like them. So let's take a look at the HTC widgets here. We're just going to run through a couple real quick. So you've got a huge bookmark thing. I'm just going to throw a couple on the screen so we can actually look at them and use them. You've got your choice of several different calculators. Calendar. Massive clock. This one you'll see very commonly on HTC devices. It's sort of their flagship thing that always comes. At the top it's weather, time. Let me get a couple more on here. Alright, I think that's good for now. So let's look at each one of these. Like I said, this is one of many instances where this takes up the entire screen. So if you like your widgets, your standard Android widgets, you may dislike these because they take up a lot of space. You've only got this many home screens here to customize, and a lot of their widgets are almost applications that run in their own sort of desktop page. So you only have a couple places to put widgets, and yet they offer 66 different widgets as of this recording. So I don't really know how they expect you to utilize them all. But so this is a gigantic bookmarks thing that'll give you thumbnails of all your different bookmarks, and takes up the whole screen. Tapping on it will launch you into their browser. It doesn't use the standard Android one; it uses its own skinned one. And we've got calendar one. This could be so much more useful in my opinion. Basically all this does is show you the month, and then any day where there's a little triangle at the top means that you have something on that day. It doesn't tell you how many things, doesn't tell you when, or anything like that. It just tells you that you have something on that day. And for someone who uses their calendar a lot, that's not really useful because I have something on pretty much every one of my days. Let's get rid of these as we go through them. As I said, this is their big flagship clock. You'll see this on screenshots of their devices. This is very HTC. This has been emulated across a lot of different devices. But like I said, it's just so big. By the time that you start adding icons down here, you've lost so much room, it almost doesn't seem worth it. So let me throw a couple icons. I think we only will get 2 columns out of that now, or 2 rows. So yeah, I'll only be able to have 2 by 4 here after this has been put up here, and I would just so much rather have a widget that takes up a much smaller amount of space. I mean, these numbers are huge. Just seems unnecessary. Get the weather in there. That could all be condensed so much more. But tapping on this will take you into their clock, which has a lot of different options here. Also, this slider down here, which sort of takes place of different tabs that you'll see on different on other interfaces. They're basically tabs, but they've got this thing that you can slide around to select each one. That's very common across many of the HTC softwares and widgets. So, you know, you've got all your typical stuff you'd expect out of an alarm clock, and you can access that right here. I want to see if I can get to weather. Yeah, so depending upon where you tap on this widget, it'll take you to the clock. If I tap on the weather here, it will take me to a larger weather with a little bit more information. See if there's any landscape support in this, and there's not. There's also no landscape support on the home screen, which is somewhat disappointing, but it's pretty common across phones anyway. Some of the tablets coming out are doing a little bit better with landscape support on the home screen. Friend Stream, this will put your social networks status updates in here. Again, it's huge, but doesn't give you a lot of information, so I'm not a big fan. You know, here I can see a whopping 3 people from Facebook. I would expect to be able to see quite a bit more on an 800 by 480 4.3 inch screen here. And if I want to update my status, click on here, type something, and I'll be able to choose if I want Facebook, Twitter, MySpace I think they support, and I can update multiple statuses at one point, which is nice if you use multiple social networks. But again, for taking up the entire screen here, I think they're doing a poor job of putting enough information on here. And when you click on one of the entries in your friend stream, you'll be launched into sort of a proprietary section of that comment instead of being taken to your own, instead of being taken to the Facebook application or something like that. You can comment, but that's about it. Let me see what happens. If I try to go to a profile here from this page, so it's going to kick me out to, again, sort of another, I'm within HTC's own Facebook integration right here, and in my opinion that is not preferable just because there's always stuff that they're not going to be able to support. For instance, let's look at their Peep application that comes included. This is the application that you'll get kicked out to generally anytime you do anything that is integrated within the shell for Twitter. Let me put in my login info real quick so I can show you. So we're signing in here, and I may as well say, by the way, this is not on Wi-Fi right now, this is running on 3G. And so now that we're in here, what I was saying is that I don't think it's preferable to use in-house applications. I'd rather go to in-house applications or integrated directly into shell instances, because it's usually not done very thoroughly, and therefore you miss stuff and you have to go to the official applications anyway. So for instance, this is Peep, their Twitter client, and I can see my friend stream here, but if you're like me, you're probably following a lot of people and you like to use lists to really delve down to the people that you care about and want to get all of their tweets about. Otherwise it's very hard to process a lot of information. So Peep support for lists, as far as I can tell, is non-existent. You can't access any of your lists, so that sort of makes this solution useless for me. For other people that follow just a few people and can handle all of that information on here, I guess this will do it for you. Although I don't think this gives a good sense of when and where the last time you've checked or how many updates have been since you were there. You can look at mentions, DMs, and your favorites, but other than that, it's pretty bare bones. Let me see if I can tweet a picture, because that's important. So yeah, I'll be able to geolocate and add a photo or video, which is handy. So fortunately they have that, if not everything that you'd expect from a Twitter client. So my personal opinion, I would like to use the official clients because they support all the features. And I would also not prefer to have a widget here that takes up an entire home screen and only gives me 3 or maybe 4 statuses. This is Footprint by HTC, which is one of a few of their widgets that I think is actually really neat and useful. In terms of size, it is takes up the whole screen, even though there's a lot of space around it. I don't believe I can add any applications. Yeah, that takes up the entire screen. I can't add anything else. But its functionality is neat and useful in certain cases. So basically what Footprints does is it'll grab your GPS location from your phone, hit the plus button right here, and essentially it's just going to throw down a marker on a map and let you add notes to it. So I've just created a footprint, and if I can adjust the location here. Alright, so let's say I'm right there. I can take a picture. I can hit the done button and then actually jump back into that and hit edit. And there is a whole slew of stuff that you can add here. I can type written notes, I can categorize it, I can add an address, phone number, a site, I can record a voice memo, and I can actually get the latitude and longitude of where that is. So if you are somewhere like in a city, this is really handy. You can basically say, oh, there's a really neat bar that I saw, or here's a cool bookstore. Make a footprint, take a picture, and then go back and see that all later on a map, rather than saying, where was that store, or having to look up street signs and jot down the address or anything like that. I actually wish that I had this a little while ago, because there's a neat restaurant that I'd like to go to, and I can't remember where it was. I remember exactly what it looks like, but I don't remember where it was on the map, so I've had a hard time finding it. So Footprints is pretty neat for certain people who are interested in cataloging their information that way. I'm sure it would be very good for trips and geotagging photos. When it comes to exporting and sharing footprints, I'm not sure how friendly they are with that. I would imagine it's a fairly proprietary format, but if you could get that information all exported to an email, that would be even more useful. But I'll look a little bit further into that for the full review. So we've gone through a lot of the major widgets. I want to show you web browsing real quick, and typing for that matter. You might actually be able to hear the vibrator going as I'm typing. As I mentioned, it's pretty big, and it's actually audible. I don't know if you can get it over the camera, but I can certainly hear it buzzing in addition to feeling it. So this is on 4G, loading up UMPC portal, and we're able to scroll around without too much hassle while it's loading. Text reflows in this browser, and to access the all the tabs that you have open, you actually pinch all the way out, and then I can add a new tab. And so let's say go to Woot. I'm going to pinch all the way out again, and then I can switch between my tabs. So that is, again, not necessarily something that people are going to find immediately because it's not told to them, but it is faster than the default Android process of pressing menu, and then there's a button for Windows, and then pulling up separate lists. So it's just one quick gesture. This could be a little bit, smoother here, but again, at least it has its uses. So take it into landscape real quick. Show you how fast that adjusts. It's pretty quick. So it's better than I've seen a lot of devices, particularly the Zoom lately. Pretty embarrassingly slow response on the landscape to portrait change. What else can we do on here? Let me show you the speed. This is a 4G phone after all, Verizon's first. And the speed of 4G is extremely impressive in this area, and I'm certain most other areas where it's currently covered. So I'm on 4G up here, no Wi-Fi, I've got full bars. I'm going to hit begin test on speed test, and as you can see, this is just ridiculous. Got nearly 30 megabits per second down right there, and almost 20 up, which is just way faster than my home broadband connection, which is really cool. And if you pay extra, you'll be able to use the mobile hotspot, which means that you can share that really quick speed with up to, I want to say, 8 other devices. Let me double check on that for you. Max connections. So yeah, they'll let you add up to 8 on here, which is really handy, and your friends will love you if you can give them a mobile hotspot that's as quick as 4G is. The speeds there that you just saw, I'll run it again real quick. They said, I mean, those are really fast, and that's really great, but they did say that they can expect to see these come down as congestion on 4G continues. I want to say that they've been saying people should expect to see 5 to 12 megabits per second down, and something like 4 to 6 megabits per second up. Still pretty quick. This speed is almost overkill. I was actually thinking the other day that while we've broken one bottleneck with this, which is network connection speed on mobiles, we've actually ran into more. I tried downloading there was a 500 megabyte PDF that I had to access the other day, and I was able to download it, which was awesome, and I would have just never been able to do that on 3G from my current provider, which is AT&T, because it's horrendously slow. So I was able to download a huge 500 megabyte PDF, but then I couldn't open it in the software. So the software was just not made to handle files of that size on a mobile phone, I suppose. So we've eliminated one bottleneck, but there are more to be eliminated now that we've got the network connection to be such a great speed. So that's the HTC Thunderbolt here, Verizon's first 4G phone. It's a real meaty phone, really big in the hand. I wish it were smaller, actually. As you can see, Android wants you to use these 4 buttons down here, so you're frequently pressing these, and the notification bar is also really important, so you're going to have to be reaching all the way to the top of the screen to pull that down. So if I keep my thumb in line with the 4 Android buttons, you'll see without readjusting, I could only reach about 75, maybe 65% of the screen. So that's being able to press these important buttons, and if I need to go up there, I'm going to need to do some shuffling with my hands. It's just the nature of it. My hands aren't that small, they're not huge. For a bigger-handed person, that might not be an issue, but for me, and I think for many other people, it's certainly going to be. This is not preferable for a one-handed phone, because there's going to be shuffling to pull that down. And then, once I'm in this position where my thumb can reach the notification bar, this is as far down as I can go with my thumb. I can't reach the 4 Android buttons again. I've only got this range of mobility, and so that means I have to shuffle back down. There's going to be a lot of shuffling. So Android's interface demands don't exactly fit with the requirements of this phone unless you have very large hands. So definitely expect to be using it with 2 hands like this, or with 2 hands like this much of the time, or doing a lot of shuffling when you're trying to use it and walk or hold something in your other hand. So the size, I think, could come down a little bit. Not a fan of the fact that they keep making these things bigger and bigger. Bigger is not always better, but that's what we've got here. So you'll be seeing a full review for the HTC Thunderbolt coming from us shortly at carrypad.com, and we'll have lots more coverage over there. We'd love for you to come check it out and comment on it and let us know what you guys want to see from our review on this phone and our coverage. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I hope you all have a great day.